Now may be the test of whether those dinners and golf outings with congressional Republicans, particularly Senate Republicans, built up any goodwill, or whether they'll seek to turn the president's pain into their own political gain. With me now, Republican Senator from Mississippi, Roger Wicker. Senator Wicker, good morning to you.
Well, good morning. Glad to be with you, Chuck.
Well, I know you were at one of those dinners, so let me ask that before we get to some of the specifics of all of the various controversies of this week, do you believe the various controversies of this week are going to derail this effort that seems to be making some progress between the group of you Senate Republicans that have been dining with the president, meeting with Dennis McDonough, and the White House in trying to get a big budget deal?
Well, let me be clear. I'm not part of a group that's negotiating some grand bargain.
Well, I don't think there's any negotiations starting, but you were at one of those dinners and people have reached out to you, is my understanding.
Right. Let me just say this. As a part of any deal that the president would sign, that would involve a tax increase. And I can't imagine that this IRS scandal and the controversy surrounding the overreach and intimidation by the IRS is going to do anything but pour cold water on the president's attempt to raise taxes as part of a grand bargain. So, yes, it will hurt the president in that respect.
You think IRS in many ways could derail any bigger talk of grand bargain, or do you also think it could derail tax reform?
Well, I think it very well might, although I appreciate what Congressman Levin and Chairman Camp are doing over on the House side. But let me just say this, Chuck, and be clear about it. An IG report from within is not going to be sufficient. It's not going to be sufficient for the administration to say there were administrative mistakes made. We need to change that. To me, this is part of a pattern of big government heavy-handedness, a pattern of big government overreach and intimidation that not only is within the IRS, but also the Justice Department, Health and Human Services, with going in and intimidating insurance companies to kick in a little money for advertising for Obamacare, intimidating insurance companies not to speak up with their concerns back when the legislation was being considered. So I think it's part of a larger pattern by this administration, and I think the president and the people in the White House inner circle have to be responsible for this.
Let me ask you about the Benghazi emails. When the White House released these emails, not publicly, but for a select group of senators, in particular senators who wanted to hold up the nomination of John Brennan, the emails seemed to satisfy enough Senate Republicans that John Brennan got confirmed. What about the emails now raises questions in your mind if they didn't raise enough questions to stop John Brennan's confirmation?
Well, I think Mr. Brennan's confirmation had to be taken in the context of his overall qualifications, and I think on balance, a majority of senators decided that it would be better to confirm him. But this is another example of intimidation and overreach, Chuck, with the State Department telling State Department whistleblowers, be careful what you say. Don't go forward with all this information. I think it's shocking and an outrage. And so as more investigations, as more committees exercise their governing function of conducting oversight, to me, it's a scandal that has yet to reach its peak.
I'm curious on the Benghazi thing. Why hasn't there been more focus on the CIA? There's been a lot of focus on the White House, a lot of focus on state. The more we now know about the Benghazi outpost, CIA may have had more oversight over this outpost than any other agency. Should the Intelligence Committee, should there be more of an investigation into CIA's actions before, during, and after?
Well, I think Mr. Issa's committee in the House is not finished in that regard. I'm not a member of the Intelligence Committee, and frankly, I'm not privy to all the conversations that go on there. But yes, the State Department should be the focus of this, as well as additional penetrating questions for the CIA. This is taxpayer money being spent. These are government employees, and I'm glad, at least over on the House side, we have some people that are willing to call folks in, put them under oath, and ask the tough questions to get the facts out.
All right, Roger Wicker, Republican senator from Mississippi. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you, sir.